Okay, good evening, everybody. This is lecture number 5. Can't believe we're halfway through the course. This will be posted July 29th, 2019 for summer IIG, ITS832. Okay, this will not likely be a lengthy lecture. So our overview, we're going to talk about the week 5 topic, which is the challenge to governments in generating revenue in the information age, and how technology and globalization is changing things and disrupting their normal revenue generating pattern. We'll talk about the discussion question, and we have another writing assignment this week. Again, no more than 3 pages, please, of content. You'll have a title page, a reference page, and then 2 to 3 pages maximum, in order to state your case um, and satisfy the assignment requirements. And then at the end of this lecture, I'll do a writing demo of EndNote in Word. Just kind of do a live, unscripted um, demonstration of how I would address this discussion question um, using my bibliographic software EndNote. And again, I can't stress enough how much uh, bibliographic software makes your life easier, and that'll be that. Okay, so again, I'm no expert in government revenue generation. I'm a retired Air Force officer, software engineer, um, and computer programmer, but um, there's a lot about in that world uh, about making money, and money makes the world go around, and governments have to generate revenue. So these are some examples of things that are changing that we can discuss in class discussion and in your papers. And again, as always, there are many more. You're welcome to find something that interests you, or that the literature leads you toward. Corporate taxes in a global economy. One of the big things you'll see in the U.S. news is U.S. companies that use offshore bank accounts and offshore accounting methods to avoid corporate taxes in the U.S. corporate income taxes. Even though they're making the money globally, some American politicians expect them to treat that income as U.S. based and pay those taxes. Um, Apple was one big public company that was called out during the presidential campaign for having I don't know, billions and billions of dollars in accounts offshore that were being protected from U.S. taxes. Uh, as I did my research for this lecture, I'm seeing other countries and economic zones, Europe, India, China, struggling with the same issue because of the distributed global nature of the economy and the way information services are provided. Um, Sales tax, that's an easy, highly identifiable one. That threw local governments for a loop, and especially in the U.S. because they were used to taxing sales. Like you walk into a store, you pay 6% sales tax, and they use that to pay the firemen and the libraries and the policemen and the schools and whatnot. And then when we started doing so much commerce over the internet, they were not necessarily that the vendors, e-commerce vendors, were not necessarily required to collect taxes because they could be in physically in one or more states, and customers are in spread throughout the country and the world, and so they didn't charge any taxes. So no tax revenue um, was being generated. That there was some scholarly work being done on the the decrease in government revenue. That would be an interesting thing for somebody to pull up. Would be the what caused the raw numbers in lower tax revenue that caused some policy changes. Oh, within the last 10 years, they started levying some tax. But again, it's not, I often, seems like I save taxes. If I order something on Amazon, I've got a 9% sales tax here in Arkansas in the United States, and I don't often pay 9% on things that I buy as I would if I had to buy them in the local economy. So I think there have been compromises made. So there's a fair amount of work out there that you could cite on how sales tax has changed um, in the distributed e-commerce world. Income tax and telecommuters. I'm going to use that as my example. I live in Arkansas. I pay Arkansas income tax. The University of the Cumberlands is in Kentucky, and I have Kentucky income tax being withdrawn, even though I don't reside in Kentucky. The business is there, and I'll possibly wind up paying income tax in Kentucky and in Arkansas, which um, for most people that's objectionable to pay double taxation, especially if you're not reaping any benefits from. I won't drive on a Kentucky road. I won't use a Kentucky school or fire department or anything. So uh, that to me that's counterintuitive. So we'll see how that works out. And I'm going to use that example. Uh, there's a lot of articles written on this. If you just go out and Google search income tax and telecommuters or telework, I saw something that New York State might be really heavy at taxing companies, employees, if they're a New York based company, regardless of where the employees are. But again, that's something uh, you could research and bring up in class discussion. Taxation of services is changing because so much is being done over the internet um, with and cloud computing. So there's just uh, a huge amount of change that disrupts the usual revenue generating pattern that we can discuss this week. This one is a little bit this topic of this week is a little bit light on information systems implementations. But as information systems professionals and information systems researchers, it's an unavoidable topic in general. So we'll keep pressing with that. Um, I'll post these slides like I did last week with useful links. These are almost all practitioner sources as opposed to peer-reviewed academic journal articles. Which when you're writing your dissertation, it's very important to use nothing but peer-reviewed journals. But in class discussion, I want to make sure that you guys aren't trying to just imitate journal articles. This needs to be uh, our discussion needs to be a true exchange of individual thoughts, observations, and experience. I see what looks like a lot of ping ponging of academic nonsense, reworded articles that don't really have anything to do with what each other are saying. I'd like to stop that and literally talk to each other using, of course, the keyboard and the written word, uh, and ask each other questions and share your observations as opposed to something you found out on the internet, which doesn't really add anything to class discussion or really help anybody do anything. So here's a first page of um, some international taxation. That first Bloomberg article. Uh, Work from home tax increase. That's something I'll be talking about in my demo. There's some folks that want to levy an equal global tax to attack global issues. I don't know how well that works. We have these individual national sovereignties to deal with. So everyone would have to sign up to that. Anyway, more useful links. Um, Again, Europe has its own intentions and voting population to satisfy. So here are some articles for you to use just to get going, get your background going as far as taxation is concerned, and information systems in particular. Okay, so this will be our discussion topic. Um, and again, pick something that interests you, something that you're seeing at work where you're at currently, something that you deal with, maybe a news article from back home that you thought needed more attention, um, and you're going to briefly describe the issue. What is the taxation? And then I want a section where why it's important to you. Why are you choosing this topic? And then tell us a little bit of scholarly work in the area, if they've identified gaps, if they've done some research to prove that there's a gap in policy, or to prove that a given policy was effective or not effective. So we'll have three sections to the topic this week, and I have not I have not uh, done my own response to this before. I haven't practiced or anything, but I'm going to write a response to this, hopefully, to demonstrate how I would go about doing this discussion question. And I'll come back to this when we get to it. And then the writing assignment, back to the 2 to 3 page paper maximum. And you'll just address an area of government policy involving taxation, um, similar to what you've done in discussion, but do something different than what you chose in discussion. After you've read your colleagues' responses next weekend, pick something that you didn't write about in class discussion, and you'll turn in your paper. But again, support what you're seeing in the literature. What our researchers saying is that's lagging behind technology, a policy area regarding government revenue generation that is lagging technological reality, and write your paper about that, and then recommendations, of course. What's lagging? What are they recommending? And this is to get you used to reading and reporting on the literature critically. You read, you review literature, and then um, you report on its major findings. You'll do this uh, over and over and over again in your dissertation. And again, I'll point you back to my dissertation that I posted in previous weeks. Was that the second week? I think I made a Walker Writing Samples folder, and I put my dissertation out there, and you can see where I paraphrase and use the major findings of articles to support the flow of my writing. I don't I don't just take an article and say what they say. Anybody can do that. That's not difficult, and it doesn't show analysis. You have to use the literature to prove your point. Um, so that's the written assignment. This will all be posted out there with instructions when you get started this week. Um, so that's like I said, not a huge amount of lecture this week. Most of the activity will be in the class discussion. Um, the bottom line is that governments need to draw revenue from economic activity. Every capitalist or even socialist government has some way of drawing revenue out of the economy, taxes, tariffs on imports, duties on imports, um, individual person income taxes, company level income tax, sales tax on any sort of a transaction that goes on. There's all kinds of different ways that our governments draw revenue, and because they have to pay for basic services one way. So short of owning a government business monopoly like maybe Mexico owns the petroleum industry. The Mexican government owns, pretty sure it used to be called Pemex. I'm pretty sure it still is Petroleum Mexico. Uh, Pemex is a government owned company. So all of the revenue from selling gasoline in Mexico goes straight to the national treasury. As opposed to in the U.S. where you have, Shell and Exxon and BP and all these different companies that we tax their income, but we don't monopolize their income. So in that model, you got to figure out a way to tax activity, right? So information age is second bullet. Information age technologies have caused new business processes, new ways of sales and services that are disrupting that those tax policies, and policymakers struggle to move on with it. And that's what we'll be discussing this week is what has changed, what are the identified gaps, and what are researchers in that area saying we should be doing about it. Next week, we'll talk about compliance issues. There are laws that come down that affect the way we track money, like Sarbanes-Oxley, SOX, levied much more transparency in financial accounting. So we'll talk about um, how laws inject a need to comply with them, and how information systems support businesses in proving their compliance. This can be everything from, oh well, we'll go into it next week. There's a wide variety of things that information systems do to help companies comply with rules, regulations, laws, and questions, concerns. Uh, I'm still not getting anywhere near as many questions or concerns about your feedback, questions about the class, um, as I should be getting in my email. So I'll make that offer again. There you go. So we are gonna do a EndNote and Word demo. So this is going to be live, unscripted. I'm going to go back to the discussion questions slide here. Okay. And I'm going to highlight the discussion question. And I'm going to copy that. And then I've got an empty Word document I created. Here we are. So I'll go in here. No one emailed me. You see how this cursor is right here at the top of the page? But yet when I print this or look at it in a multi-page view, there I have 1-inch margins, but somehow my view got messed up. If anybody can think of how that happened, I'm in print layout. It should be my cursor should be blinking down here somewhere. I've looked all over the internet, can't figure it out. So if anybody knows why my cursor is blinking at the top of the page, please let me know. So I would paste the content in here. And then, oh yeah, bring up your bibliographic software. It always pays. It always helps to have it running. And EndNote, please move this window away from the shared application. It's coming up. Okay, so there's my EndNote library. There's my discussion question. Okay, so that's what we're talking about. What area interests me? Choose a thing. So we don't need this line in class discussion. So I would delete that out. And I don't need these to be bulletized. Oh, don't do that. I don't need these to be bulletized. So I'll take the bullet off of these guys here. Now, brief description of the issue. Okay, this doesn't need to really be cited. Whoop. This doesn't really need to be cited, but I will debulletize that. And I will say a brief description of the issue. I will say that some employees in a telework scenario are potentially double taxed. They're taxed in their state of residence and also potentially in the state where the business resides. Again, my example, and I'll say why this is important to me. Okay. This issue is of personal importance because of my role as a professor with the University of the Cumberlands. Live in Arkansas and pay taxes there. No small amount of taxes. And Kentucky's also drawing income tax. And my objection is, though, I consume no services in Kentucky. And this could become an issue for you as an information systems manager, where you're hiring people in a distributed environment. They might be concerned, depending on where you are, that you're going to have to tax them for the state that your company is in. And there may be ways around it. You might be able to work with your accounting people to figure out a solution, a loophole in the wording. Okay, what? Now this is where no kidding, where we're going to go out to Google Scholar and find what, if any, scholarly work has been completed in this area. Now, when I start my research, I often start in regular Google. So please move this window away from the shared application. I hope that this is working for you guys. It screen sharing is paused. Well, I don't know how well this is going to work as a live demo. Please move this window away from the shared application. Yeah. Like I said, I didn't practice this. Move this window away from the shared application. Maybe if I close PowerPoint. Screen sharing has stopped as the shared window is closed. Okay. Well, I'm going to share my screen now. Share. Okay, so hopefully you guys are seeing this still. It says I'm still recording. So anyway, you go to regular Google and you say income tax and telecommuting, state income tax and telecommuting. There you go. And you will see, as I did, a practitioner's guide to the taxation of telecommuting, state tax compliance in the world of telecommuting, all kinds of different journal of accountancy. Here's an actual journal article about it. This is the article that I provided to you from CNN. So this looks like a journal article. So let's go see what it has to say. The Journal of Accountancy, State Taxation of Telecommuters. It's from 2009. I try to use newer than this, but for class discussion especially, you guys are welcome to use something that's relevant, even if it's within. So I found this here you got this journal article, and it gives you the background um, of the problem, and then uh, some new policies. Um, this is not really, research and recommendations, but it gives you some background. So let's go back to the Word document. What scholarly work? So let's pop over to uh, let's go over to Google Scholar and type in something similar. Telecommuting, the future of work in American society. Um, Now, what you're seeing is an open search, so you're going to see old references. You'll see the word income tax calculations, new blah blah blah, out of state telecommuter. This might be this, again 2004. Um, what you can do: state income tax reciprocity agreements and small businesses, telecommuting, say by telecommuting. Let's look at this one. It's 2014. That's relevant. That's pretty new. Um, I did not see the full text version. But let's see what the abstract has to say on this one. In previous studies, it noted that higher state tax rates may reduce entrepreneurial activity. That's not good. The paper aims to discuss the issue. And as we've discussed previously, we always talk about the research design and methodology. And here we have economic data to explore the effects of income tax reciprocity. Now, they did they mentioned telecommuting somewhere in this article. Telexecutor, given recent nationwide efforts to ease compliance costs for businesses through other initiatives, such as the Telecommuter Tax Fairness Act. Okay, that might be interesting. But we don't have the full text of this unless you go out to your library website and find it. But this is interesting. So this would lead me to go find out more about that. I would, since I'm in Chrome, all I got to do is jump that up there. Well, hey, here's another website that talks about it. So we can see what work has been done in this regard. Again, the the discussion question is scholarly work, if any, has been made in this area. So let's get back on track. There's lots of information in this area. So again, when I was getting my my doctorate, I would spend on a discussion question like this. I would spend an hour or two doing what I'm doing, bouncing through the literature, trying to answer this one question: what, if any, scholarly work has been completed in this area, and what are the findings? So we come back over here, and again, let's bring up Google Scholar, and um, let's put telecommuting first, or telework and income taxation. Oh, somebody else is looking up this thing too. A new look at telecommuting and teleworking. Again, we want to pull up something that talks about income tax. Taxation. Ooh, we got a full text version of something here. Open that up in a new tab. And are we going to have something that has something to do with taxation? Turn to page 113 to begin to telework. Okay. Yeah, this seems like it's the actual law. So I would I would go to something else. Let's say government revenue of telework. Telework isn't working. A policy review. Policy review. That's what we're talking about. Let's see if it's they might be talking about corporate policy as opposed to revenue policy, government revenue. I'm thinking this demonstration uh, isn't working real well unscripted, and I fear I'm wasting everyone's time. But you see what it takes. You have a question, you go out to the literature and you start reading. Sometimes it's hard to find. So let's, for the sake of this article, or for the sake of this discussion question, I would say uh, in the is largely undocumented in the literature. I conducted, and you guys, and in academic writing, um, in your dissertation or in a journal article, you don't talk about I rarely, because you're not an acknowledged expert, and even if you are, it's just bad practice. But in class discussion, please feel free to talk, to discuss these issues in a professional, collegial, business language environment. So I conducted a Google Scholar search and found evidence of policy. And then here, let's just for an example, this is how I would cite something quickly, because we had brought up some stuff at telework and taxation when we Googled it with income. There we go, income tax and telecommuting. Here we go. Employees additional income tax. So we'll open this in a new tab. And we'll see what they say about additional income taxes. And very quickly, so we saw the word additional. I saw additional taxes. So we found additional occasions, additional corporate tax and expose employees to additional income tax. Here we go. It is not clear. This is a great article to cite. So I would say that based on our quick evidence here that and found evidence of policy confusion. And then here, I would cite this article. And the way you do that quickly in EndNote is, remember, here's the full text of the article, or like in this tab, and then over here, we click on this, and you can either cut and paste this. I'll do this two ways. This is not using bibliographic software, and I can say down here that I've got a reference. But better than doing that is to cite it in line using reference, using EndNote. So I will go back here and I will say EndNote, and I'll download the citation by clicking on the quote marks out here and then saying EndNote. If you have RevWorks, that's fine. And then when you click on that, it brings it up in EndNote. Okay, so here's the article I'm reading out there on Google Scholar. I'm not a researcher when it comes to taxation and policy and telecommuting. Okay, so I'm not going to add the PDF to my EndNote, but this does simplify texting or citing. So here I can say in my EndNote tab, I can say insert selected. And now noted that there is confusion regarding a virtual company's presence. I guess it would say virtual company's presence and the taxation of its employees. I think that was the gist of what that article said. But we'll go back and make sure that we're not, mischaracterizing what it said. For example, it's not clear, may establish a physical business presence in a state where none previously existed. As a result, employers may be subject to additional corporate taxes and expose employers to additional income taxes. There you go. May be required to collect sales tax in states where telecommuters reside. See, there's all kinds of confusion here. New policies need to be crafted, taking into account legislative rules. So this is actually a good article. So, but for APA format, we don't use author comma year. So what we do here is we edit citation. I right clicked on it. We say edit citation, and then we display as author year. Now you see, I did not cut and paste what Potter said in his article. I read it and I got the gist of it. I got the basic understanding and I typed it into my paper. So this lecture has gone on long enough, unscripted and unpracticed. But this is how I write. This is how you need to address these discussion questions. You go out and you conduct a original literature review and see what the authors are saying. See what's being written out there, and then you write about that. You don't use their language. You don't cut and paste their words into your paper. You see, I wrote this right in front of you originally, mistakes and all. And again, this takes a while. I spent hours and hours and hours every week to get through my doctorate, and it's not easy. So that's this question. So I'm going to. You will see this pasted as my initial response to the week 5 discussion. And again, email me if you have any questions about EndNote. But Google it. Google this stuff. Google bibliographic software. Google free bibliographic software. There's EndNote has a website. Check it out. But use some sort of bibliographic software and start to think about your research area and the topics, and start to collect articles that discuss your research area. Next week, we're getting towards the end of class. We've only got a few more weeks left. I'm going to post everything I think you can use, and you're welcome to download it, that I used from my dissertation journal, my dissertation journey, and hopefully you'll find them useful as well. We can talk about your research question, your problem area, and purpose statement. But that's how I do writing. So there, I got one article that made some recommendations and at least an observation in their expertise that there is confusion out there. But you could build on that, build your case, and share that with the class. It takes work, but when you see someone pasting something on the from the internet and you say, "Oh, that's a very good post. Here's some more junk I found on the internet." You're not helping anything. You're not learning anything, and you're certainly not growing as a researcher and writer. So this is how I do it. This is what I'm expecting to see, and I'm expecting to see a lot of work the results of your work. It doesn't mean like some people are posting, 2 or 3 pages of stuff they did not write in class discussion because they're trying to, I guess, overwhelm. If you can't dazzle them with brilliance, you baffle them with bull, as the saying goes. It doesn't add anything to the class discussion. It's just a bunch of stuff you found out there that's not put in any particular context. So that's what I'm trying to do, and got a little bit of guidance from the university that to try and make these discussions more personal to you, so that you won't be tempted to just go find some journal article and stick it in there and be done and hope that's good enough, which it's not. But so make this discussion personal to you, not to some other researcher. Okay, so I'm gonna hit stop record and call that a lecture. Okay, everybody have a good week. I look forward to seeing you in class.